a little easier to call for me. It is the Broncos versus the Sharks, and a host of changes and some surprising ones for Broncos fans. Tessie New will keep his one shirt despite the fact that Jermaine Isako is named. He will play on the wing. Herbie Farnworth will be his centre. There will be a welcome return for Katoni Staggs as well as Corey Oates, so there will be no Xavier Coates this week. He's not made the turnaround from Origin, and he's not made the Broncos side. Gamble and Croft will be your 6 and 7. Then it's Lodge, Turpin, Haas as your front row. Glenn is in the 11 shirt, and Rabati is in for the suspended Taviti Pangai Jr. Flegler in the 13. And then a name we've not seen for a little while on a Broncos team list, Corey Pakes is in the 14 shirt. So I'm not quite sure how they're going to use him, so it's going to be interesting to see. And then it's Kobe Hetherington, Palacia, and then, of all people, Jesse Arthurs is your 17. That confuses the life out of me. I can't even front on that one. That one's one that's really confused me. As for the Sharks, their only real change is the inclusion of Braden Hamlin-Uele, who replaces Fafita in the 17 shirt. Other than that, the Sharks are unchanged. I mean, I'm going straight off the bat. I'm going Sharks. It's just a case of what margin do I fancy. There's a lot about the Broncos lineup that confuses me. I don't know why you've got Isaac on the wing. If you're going to put anybody in the 14 shirt, I'd say that potentially the argument is better leveraged towards Tessie New. I think he's done a good job at fullback for the Broncos. I just think that Isako, despite the fact that he was dropped after a poor turn of form, I think if you're going to put him back in the squad, I think you'd let him try and earn back his one shirt. I don't have much confidence in the Isako Farnworth combination there. Potentially, I'd have swapped Staggs and Farnworth around so that then you've got big man, little man, and that way it evens it out a little bit. You know, Corey Oates, great to see him back in a Broncos shirt because he's been very much asking the question of why am I not playing? There's a lot of questions to be asked of this Broncos lineup. I'm confused by Corey Pakes in the 14. I'm even more confused by Jesse Arthurs in the 17. I mean, how are you going to use those two players? Are you going to come in, potentially swap? Is it that they worry that maybe Staggs' fitness won't hold up and then they bring Arthurs in? Is it a case of they worry about Isako having another shocker and they put Arthurs in on the other wing? I'm absolutely, my mind is boggled by this one. As for the Sharks, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. From what I've seen out of the Sharks, it's been marginal levels of improvement. They're, well, more than marginal. You know, they've got 4 wins in their last 5, a 13-12 over the Dragons, 38-10 over the Titans, that 19-18 over the Panthers, and the 26-24 over the Cowboys. That would sway me towards believing that this would be a Sharks 1-12 win just based on those margins. But I'm going to say Sharks 13+. The Broncos, they've got 1 win in their last 4. Again, no real signs of improvement for the Broncos. Even with these changes, they lose to Vita Pangai Jr. He's an enforcer up the middle, and he's good for a few penalties. But he's also part of what lights a bit of a fire under the Broncos' backsides and gets them going, even if now he's been told that he's essentially free to look elsewhere and could have a new team by the, foreseeable, the next few weeks even. So there's just a little bit too much tinkering for me for this Broncos lineup, and I'm going to go Sharks 13+. I'm going to say back the over on this one. And if I'm going to go any time, I'm going to say Nakora and Tracy. Those would be my 2 for an any time. I just think Nakora is going to maybe get the edge over playing in the 11. I believe that he lines up against Isako and Farnworth, and that he'll just punch a hole there towards the edges. And as for Tracy, he's coming up against Staggs and Oates. Again, Staggs has a tendency to come in looking for too much work. Oates is going to be a little bit jumpy because everything that he does is going to be heavily scrutinised, so he's not going to want to let anyone get outside of him, and I believe that Connor Tracy will do that.
All right, so a couple of things. Lodge and Pangai have been now told that they're staying. just if you want to take a screenshot of what Matthew looks like right now, just right there. That looks very good. Thank you, sir. Ben Eichen, that was essentially agenda item number one. Kurt Capewell, 1B was telling Pangai and Lodge they're hanging around until at least the end of the year, if not more. So a backtrack there from the Broncos.
Okay.
Pags is a hook. Hetherington has played hook/roaming lock. Palacia second row. Arthur's the centre. Don't really know about that one. So Haas can play 80. So, okay, understandable. Lodge probably shouldn't play 80. Alex Glenn, I don't think is going to play 80. So there's there's your Palacia. Hetherington, if he plays as a roaming lock, will put Flegler in as a lock or as a prop, while Lodge is off. And then potentially Flegler and Lodge interchange at the back end of the game. There's your Hetherington justification. Corey Pakes, if Jake Turpin can't play the 80 or if Walters wants to give Turpin a break in between, there's justification on its own. Plus he can play half and the Broncos halves are going down like flies. Arthur's not really sure about that, but the news did come out today that 4 players were injured on Sunday's fitness session. And that comes a month after the Broncos fired their strength and conditioning coach. So read into that what you will, because you're not trying to put them through a preseason workout in round 15/16. Kevin. Sharks 13 plus. I'm not going to give you a reason. It's just going to happen. I've got 5 try scorers. 4 of them are from the Sharks. 1 of them are from the Broncos. Let me just add my Sharks 13 plus into this multi. I premise this by saying this is a $201 multi. I will be throwing $10 on it. Whether you follow me or not, or whether you take any of these selections is up to you. The only Broncos try scorer I've got is Katoni Staggs, and that's because I believe he's up against Will Chambers. Staggs is too strong. Yes, it's his first game back from an ACL injury, plus a suspension, but he's had 4 weeks to get real fit. He's potentially back in game fitness, even if it's simulated fitness at training, up against Chambers, who has not at all looked like himself in recent times. I agree with your sentiment on Tracy. He was the first one I picked. The second one's Jesse Ramian. Too strong, too quick, comes up against Farnworth, who is elusive, who is strong and quick, but I think we'll get caught out by the shift. It'll be Herbie Farnworth and Corey Oates, or Farnworth and Azarko against a 4-on-2 that could very well have a Sean Johnson, a Will Kennedy out the back, a Teague Wilton, a COC for Talakai and Nakora to then go with Ramian and Mulatalo. Mulatalo very well could go over, but you're more often than not going to have Izarko hanging out wide. He doesn't jam in as much as your typical winger. Ramian goes over. Sean Johnson. Broncos can't defend to save themselves at the moment. Who's the man that you want jinking and jiving coming off just signing a contract with Warriors? It's Sean Johnson. He wants to prove that when he slides back in to New Zealand in 2022, he's going to be like the Johnson of old that they thought were going to take them to a premiership. And the roughie, which is why it's at $201, Toby. Big Tobes, the man bun, Toby Rudolph. It's an inexperienced 11, 12, 13. Yes, Payne Haas is a very good defender. Yes, Matt Lodge is a solid defender. In fact, they're all solid defenders. But Rudolph, for the last 4 weeks, to my excruciating super coach Payne, combined has been about 1.5 meters away from scoring. I think this is the week that he goes over. He's due. He is so due. You still have Sharon Woods and Tolman there. You've got Hamlin Uele back on the bench. You've got Jack Williams on the bench. You've got Teague Wilton and you've got Braden Trindle. To me, that means because Talakai is starting, that there's going to be some more game time for Toby. I think he goes over early. But he's due for a try, and I'm going with him. So Rudolph, Johnson, Ramian, Tracy, Staggs, the only Brisbane try scorer I have. Sharks 13 plus pays 201. Thank you. Next.
Okay.